So hi everyone, thank you for joining us today. Thank you, Bryan, for speaking. It's great to have you. I know this is your first event that you've spoken at before with us, so it's great to have you today. So Bryan Adams is the CEO and founder of PH Creative, recognized as one of the leading employer brand agencies in the world with clients including Apple, American Airlines, Entain, and Blizzard Entertainment. Bryan is a best-selling author, podcaster, and speaker. He's considered a prominent employer brand thought leader, and his creative, unconventional, and even controversial methodologies are said to regularly change the way people think about employer branding and EVP. Thanks again for speaking today, Bryan, and good luck with the presentation.
Thanks a lot, Alex. Pleasure to be here. So I've got you for 30 minutes, folks. I'm going to go over something which I'm hoping from your perspective as a recruiter or anybody in HR actually might change the way you approach employer branding from either a design build perspective or just how you promote and use and communicate your employer brand. So as Alex said, I'm Bryan Adams, CEO and founder of PH Creative. We're a specialist employer brand agency. And our tagline, if you like, our sort of marketing line is always sell the truth. And it's kind of a play on words of always tell the truth. But it represents two things. It represents the fact that we believe employer brand needs to be the authentic reality of the employee experience. However, let's not lose sight of the fact that we are selling something. We are selling the employee experience against competitive organizations who are trying to attract and find the right talent for them. So in a competitive environment. So let's not use sight of the fact that we are selling something. But I want to pose a question. The big question in the next 30 minutes, if you don't remember anything else, I want you to think about this. What do you want your reputation to be as an employer? And what are you really selling? Typically, an employer brand starts with research and it in a bid to discover who you are and then how to position what you find. Okay, but what about the net effects of what you find? And what does the truth mean to your audience in a nearly post-COVID world? Not quite, I don't want to jinx it. So in my book that was released last March, I talk a lot about impact, purpose, and belonging. And really, these are the sort of subconscious building blocks that we need to satisfy for our audience, whether it's candidate or employee. This year has given us an opportunity to do more research and take this one step further. And what I wanted to do is make it more tangible, look at the conscious impact of those three building blocks. Like, what does it really mean consciously to candidates and employees as they decide whether to join or stay your organization? So with this sort of Venn diagram and overlaying impact, purpose, and belonging, what I came up with was three core human motivators of work, from an employee perspective. So when you look at the intersection of impact and purpose, we can talk about a career catalyst. So is your organization a career catalyst for somebody's their career? Does it accelerate their career or not? When we look at the intersection of impact and belonging, we find citizenship with Black Lives Matter, with people working from home and burning out, and all of the trials and tribulations that COVID has brought us. Citizenship is now on the rise and very much on the mind shelf of the everyday candidate and employee. And then finally, the intersection of belonging and purpose is culture, which we probably should all be familiar with from an employer brand perspective. These are the three things that candidates and employees are trying to find the answers to. So we can see here the subconscious need for impact, purpose, and belonging. And the overlay, the net result of that is the conscious desire for citizenship, career catalyst, and culture. So this means really, your reputation as an employer, which is an employer brand, should probably be led by citizenship, culture, or career catalyst. And I want to sort of dive into that with you a little bit further in the next 25 minutes that we've got left. And if we think about it as simple as this, from a career catalyst perspective, if you've got a reputation to be a career catalyst, will this place move my career forward? Will it move it forwards adequately fast enough? Will it move forward in a direction I really want to travel? From my own beliefs, from things that I want to achieve, morally, ethically, and the mission and vision of the organization. Is that a direction I really want to travel in? And then finally, from a culture point of view, and is that going to be as easily and as comfortably as possible? Can I bring my whole self to work? Am I getting on with the people around me? Is it easy to function and thrive? Today, I'm going to use this example throughout and labor on career catalyst in some examples that I'm going to share with you. All of these three components are equally important as ingredients. Again, we'll talk about it later on. What you'll find is an organization will typically lead with one of these, and to bring clarity to your reputation, that should be the case. The interesting thing about this is, this is from the employee and candidate perspective. But when we look at it from the organization perspective, because this is all very well and good if it satisfies candidates and employees, but you've got to get buy-in. It's got to make sense from a business perspective. What we found is there's a perfect overlay here. Career catalyst, reputation as a career catalyst. Essentially, what that's going to help you achieve from a business perspective is profitable productivity. Citizenship leads to frictionless alignment, and culture leads to predictable behavior. So when these priorities of your people are aligned with the best interests of your organization, you've got two of the most powerful and important factors of employer branding possible. You've got the most impactful business case possible, and you've got the most authentic positioning and communications at your fingertips. So, that's, for me, that makes the ultimate proposition. You can say, Ms. CEO, this employer brand strategy will accelerate your plans and priorities, which is a big tick. And you can say, Ms. Candidate, this is how you will accelerate your career faster here than anywhere else, if you're up for the challenge. Now, a lot of CEOs don't buy into employer brand because they don't want to promote the snapshot that is the reality of their organization today, because they're looking 2, 3, 4, 10, 50 years into the future. They know what the organization needs to look and feel like in order to achieve the vision that they've set. So this approach also helps align with the leadership view of the organization. So to bring this to life a little bit more for you, my 7 top ways to reveal the true employee experience. Shared values and beliefs and feelings, insight into commitments and intentions, proof of meritocracy and recognition, harsh realities and adversities. So anyone who's read my book, Give and Get Employer Branding, will understand the value of harsh realities and adversities, revealing that as part of your EVP. Challenges and issues, true source of pride and passion, and finally, evidence of progress and results. And when we overlay that with culture, career catalyst, and citizenship, here's what we get. So here you can see what is our culture, and that's typically made up of the flexibility and agility of the organization, manager support, equity and inclusion, financial security, the environment, benefits, data transparency, things of those nature. Then when we look at the career catalyst elements to promote a reputation for that, proof of career advancement, access to development, challenging work, external reputation, diversity, and compensation. The interesting one here for me is diversity. What's interesting about that is there's 2 motivators for diversity. The first is the career catalyst. People are recognizing now that diverse organizations are better for performance-driven cultures and therefore better for their own career advancement opportunities. But then you'll notice it's also in citizenship as well. So it should be for obvious reasons. But citizenship is made up of political voice, diversity, integrity of leadership, environmentally responsible, socially responsibility, supply chain management, and philanthropy. And there's other things that you would probably add to all 3 of these lists, but these are the main drivers, and they're there to make it tangible for you to get the point that I'm making today. Okay, so from an employer brand and EVP perspective, how do you use these? I want to boil it down for you. If you think you're an organization that should double down and forge a reputation as a career catalyst, the give is, what does it take to deliver profitable productivity here? What do you have to give as an employee to contribute to that? And the get in return is, what's it all for? What is being achieved? And your job as a communicator, as a convincer, on the sharp end of the employer brand as recruiters, you've got to justify that and you've got to prove it. For citizenship, you can see the give. What am I expected to be aligned with? What you get in return? What is being achieved? How does it feel? So this isn't just about what do we stand for. This is about demonstrating impact. So again, we've got to prove it, and then we've got to reveal how it feels. The culture, give, what predictable behavior is expected from me here, from a cultural perspective? How do I need to show up? And get, what's it all for and how does it feel? So justifying it and again, revealing it. And there it is, just distilled. So to bring a little bit more clarity to this, essentially here's how I want you to think about employer brand from a reputational perspective. Your brand of career catalyst plus your brand of citizenship plus your brand of culture equals, is this a net positive effect on me and my career? These are the questions that candidates and employees are constantly asking when they're deliberating whether to join, deliberating whether to stay. So what do you want your reputation to be? What are you really selling with authenticity? So I thought I'd throw in a few stats here about reputation and intent. You can see 75% of candidates will research a company's reputation before applying for a job. No big shock there. 75% of Americans would not take a job with a company that had a bad reputation. Again, it's obvious when you say it out loud, but the value and importance of reputation and how we think of how we should build and wield an employer brand, hopefully that might change in the next 15 minutes. 92% of people would consider changing jobs if offered a role with a company with an excellent corporate reputation. It's starting to blur the lines now, and I think we've seen over the last 12 to 18 months just how much the lines have been blurred between corporate reputation and employer brand reputation, even down to the fact that people all around the world are making different buying decisions based on the reputation organizations have as employers. Okay, so this thinking challenges the idea of trying to simply be attractive to everybody, and this is a big point of give and get employer branding in my book. But if you're attractive to everyone, you're less attractive to those that matter, and that's the point. You can't be all things to all people. And the interesting thing is, I've talked about the 3 C's being really important components to satisfying the conscious desires of candidates and employees. But if we try and satisfy them all, there is a real tension there. So what I want you to think about is, okay, so if we were to nail our colors to one of these masks, which would it be? Naturally, through our research or what people say about us already organically, which one does our organization feel more comfortable gravitating towards? And I've pulled out just a few examples here. Google, GE, McKinsey and company, they've got strong reputations for being a place that will be a catalyst for your career. You could argue that there's lots of stories about their culture and even citizenship, but actually their reputation is certainly in that field. Netflix, Salesforce, HubSpot, I could have picked out hundreds here, but these are organizations that really do thrive on a reputation for their culture. And then the same for citizenship. Ben & Jerry's, Nike with how they handle Black Lives Matter and finding their political voice, and Patagonia wanting to save the world. These are brands that really do stand for something and are forging strong reputations for their citizenship. So the other thing I wanted to challenge is the idea of retention, and this is more an open-ended thing to just sort of mull over after this session. It's a bit of a side note, but it fascinates me, and it's definitely makes a point for Career Catalyst reputation. So employer brands that promote a reputation for being a career catalyst. Google is an obvious example, but listen to this. You know, from a scarcity and toughness perspective, to work for Google, it's 25 times more difficult to get into Google than it is to Harvard. Okay, the compensation, you know, the average entry-level engineer in the US earns $79,000. Average entry level in Google is 115, plus 139 in stock, plus 44,000 in bonus. There's no comparison there. From a progression and support perspective, they have career coaches, Google Talks, the best engineers around them, a second MBA feature, the credentials of what Google means on your CV stands for itself. You know, you're more employable, and they have the best locations, flexibility, balance of home and city, etc. I don't think anyone's going to argue with that. But here's where it gets interesting. When we look at McKinsey, they've got a very strong reputation as being a career catalyst. When you look at talent flow, so Google and Amazon are amongst the top destinations of talent leaving McKinsey after 3 to 5 years working for McKinsey, higher than anywhere else. So you might look at this in a void and say, oh my God, everyone's leaving Google. Everyone's leaving us to go to Google. Google is killing us. Well, no. Proactively exiting people. 43% of McKinsey have been there for less than 2 years, meaning they've got a high turnover. And, you know, again, traditional conventional metrics would say, God, that's awful. But actually it gives a huge opportunity to progress. They're not afraid to move people on. They have a culture that is tough on excellence, and they pride themselves on homegrown talent. It's up or out. Either you're moving up quickly or they'll move you out, and there's no stigma attached to that, and everybody's comfortable with it. Because when you leave McKinsey, you have a far more likely positive chance to go and work in Google or Amazon than anywhere else that you've worked previously. Like it's the biggest draw for some people actually trying to work for McKinsey in the first place. The last interesting point on this is their alumni. They celebrate former employees on their career website and invest in their alumni with a dedicated website, cultivating a culture of loyalty and appreciation. And proof that McKinsey is a good move for your career. They invest far more in their alumni site than their competitors. They also invest far more in the top caliber recruiters, and they have a much higher number of recruiters than any of their competitors as well, because they're seen as their brand advocates, and they invest in their recruitment, and that's where they get their value from. So from an employer brand perspective, conventional thinking is a magnet to attract more talent. I've never met a recruiter or a TA leader that just wants more applications. You know, if anything, you want more technology to help you deal with the deluge of applications that you can't possibly sift through. So employer brand is much better positioned as a smart filter, helping people to self-select in or out, and helping you, recruiters, do the job more effectively by being able to spot somebody who can thrive, not just survive at your organization. And the way we think about this is, you know, your organization isn't the right challenge for everybody. We need to get comfortable, in fact, confident with that fact. You know, so with that thought, why would you want to be attractive to everybody? You know, you've got the same job with the same challenge ahead of everybody, and 3 different candidates can take this, like, very different views. You know, there's no way I can take on this challenge. Well, this this isn't challenging enough for me. And then finally, this is my kind of challenge. And, you know, that mindset and that self-selecting out based on all of the information available to them, not just what makes you attractive, is really important. So taking this on a sort of global scale out of employer brand for a second, a little example that I like to use is Disney. It's a lot of fun for the entire family. True statement. Disney is a lot of fun for the entire family as long as you're comfortable with long queues, expensive food and drink, and the occasional inevitable emotional meltdown, which is usually by me. That's also a true statement. but it's much more valuable to somebody making a decision as to whether to go to Disney or not. And at least, even if they fall to the peer pressure of family, they're going in with their eyes wide open. And I think that's the sort of distinguishing features that I want to leave you with here. So an employer brand really should galvanize the internal audience with the truth for the right reasons. And that includes the adversities and harsh realities of your organization, like hard work, straight talk, constant pressure, continual change, lean teams, etc. That'll galvanize people together because they feel acknowledged and appreciated. But if you can use that same story and that same approach to polarize an external audience, to reduce the number of unqualified applicants, then everybody wins. And if that is all brought into crystal clear focus with the clarity of what your reputation is and what your reputation should, or what you want it to be going forward, then the ability to talk to candidates and employees alike with a very consistent message becomes much more impactful and easy to pull off as well. So how to strategically begin to design or promote a meaningful and relevant reputation. So I'm using Career Catalyst as an example here. Talk about the scarcity of opportunities. Don't be afraid to talk about the toughness of the employee experience. If it's a performance-driven culture, then there are certainly tough aspects, and the right candidate will want to know what they are, to just double check that they've got what it takes to thrive, and actually probably relish those adversities as well. The compensation's got to be good. Don't shy away from that. But talk about how you're supported by your management and your team. From a meritocracy point of view, you need to prove that there is progression. And that might be progression in different ways. So again, moving on to flexibility, that's not just working from home or being autonomous in your role. It might be flexible to move around an organization. So talking about internal mobility, for example. The stability of your organization is important. The integrity of your organization is important. So stories that back all of these things up are super valuable to have up your sleeve, and to gauge how people react to those stories, whether it resonates and you find affinity. And finally, I touched on earlier, the diversity of the organization, having basic diversity information, including the conviction to change and improve going forward, because sometimes you have the paralysis of not being proud of where you are. But what you can trade on is the conviction of where the organization intends to go. Okay, so how to promote a well-defined reputation. Again, attributes of an organization with a reputation for being a career catalyst. And by the way, if anyone wants to know the same information for the other two C's, look me up on LinkedIn, get in touch, download a free copy of Give and Get Employer Branding, a free chapter rather than not the whole book. You can see the link down there, phclibrary.com/GG chapters. So the reputation for being a career catalyst: maturity, humility, compassion, clarity, substance, so really standing for something, confidence, being positive, self-critical and aware. So if there's weaknesses and negatives, lead, you bring them up, lead from the front, being self-driven and standard setting, and then the visionary leadership. These are just some of the ways that some of the things that people are looking for when they are assessing whether you are in fact a career catalyst. So where do we promote that? I mean, this stuff's obvious, but the top places are a career website, alumni website might be something that you need a new addition. Candidate portals, influencing the candidate experience. This is just experience by design. It's not all just about frictionless positivity. Your candidate experience, a well-considered candidate experience, should reinforce the reputation that you set out to create for your organization. Internal job boards, internal social walls, employer brand, asset libraries. So what tools do you have at hand that are really on brand and ready to help you tell those stories? What and how? How do you get the message out? I've listed a number of things, nine different ways. Cultural insight videos, video job previews, competitions, games, user-generated videos. Anything that is most relevant to your audience, essentially. And this is something that your recruitment marketing division, ETA leader, will be testing and measuring. I guess as a recruiter, your job is to find what is working, test and feedback what is resonating the most, and don't underestimate the value of your feedback in that feedback loop. If you are interested just to see how do this all fit together from a strategic perspective, I want to end on this. Again, in the book, Give and Get Employer Branding, we talk about purpose, impact, and belonging. Those foundations are still as true now as they were, and will be going forward. From a research perspective, it's those core foundations that you're looking for. When you move into the distillation of your research, that's where you can start to see patterns emerge and clear winners from which C is your organization striving for, or where's the strength, or where do you want to go? If your career catalyst, citizenship, and culture, your beliefs and mission play a role there as well. And then the give and get EVP proposition. What does somebody have to get in order to what does somebody have to give in order to get what's on offer? Be very clear with that proposition, and use that as the smart filter device. Guiding principles around how to bring that to life. That's the employer brand strategy. And then finally, the brand itself, the more aspirational positioning statement. That is at the top of the funnel, the sort of thing that gets the attention and starts the conversation of affinity in the first place. Okay, so that's it. It's been a whistle-stop tour. I think I've got 2 minutes. I wanted to just finish on 10 things you can do today to get started, to improve your reputation as an employer and start to crystallize and focus your reputation. I hope that's of some interest to you. I hope you've had some value from that. If you had any more questions at all, contact me on LinkedIn or email me, Bryan, Bryan, @ph-creative.com. Feel free to check out the book. And if you do buy the book, please leave a review and get in touch and let me know what you think. I love getting feedback. But that's it from me. It's been an absolute pleasure to talk for the last 30 minutes. I hope it's been of some interest and value to you as well. I think this is the first time I've ever finished with a little bit of time to spare. So if anyone's got any questions at all, let's have a little look, see if there's any questions come in.
Hi, Bryan. I'm not sure if you can see me on your end, but I just wanted to come in and say thanks for your presentation. It was really interesting.
Thanks, Alex.
And yeah, I don't see any questions here in chat. So anyone watching, if you want to pop a question in for Bryan, feel free to just type it in chat there on the right-hand side. That's under the session tab there. You just type it there and Bryan can answer that. But in the meantime, Bryan, I just wanted to see, so I see you sort of listed, your 10 things you can do, but I just wanted to ask, what's sort of the key takeaway that you wanted someone to get from this presentation? Like the one thing you really want to hammer in?
So the one thing that, most people research their organization to discover their employer brand. Mm-hmm. The takeaway is do the research. You want an employer brand that is authentic, but don't lose sight of the fact that the reputation you want to forge as an employer is in your hands. So be conscious of what the audience wants you to communicate. Those three conscious aspects of, are you a place to go to accelerate your career? Are you a place to go to enjoy the culture? Are you a place to go to make a difference to the world from a citizenship perspective? Discover what that is and double down, because that brings clarity and confidence to your audience, and your employer brand becomes much more valuable as a result.
Awesome. Well, yeah, thank you again. And that was some great advice. So yeah, I don't see any questions here, unfortunately. So I know we're at 3:30, so we are just out of time. If people want to get in touch with you, what's the best way?
So LinkedIn, just search for Bryan with a Y Adams at PH Creative.
Awesome.
Please connect with me there. That'd be fantastic.
Awesome, great. Well, thanks again, Bryan. It was a great presentation. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. And just to let you know, our main stage panel is actually beginning in about a minute or so, and that will go until the end of the event. Thanks again, Bryan. It was a great presentation.
Thanks, Alex. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye.